I'm about to begin the painting part of my day, a painting a day, and I want to tell you about the watercolor paper I'm using just for these first exercises that are not, I don't think, are going to be any great works of art. But anyway, they may be. But anyway, I always use hot press watercolor paper, always, just almost without variation. I do that because most of my watercolor paintings are actually kinds of drawings, and I may use a pencil, I may use a Conte crayon, I may use ink on it, I may use a pen, and the cold press paper is more cobbledy, pebbledy, and hot press paper is very, very smooth. I don't use this Master's Touch that you get at Hobby Lobby, and every other week it's 50% off. This 11 by 14 tablet or pad, which I recommend you get, is $20.99 regularly. So every other week it's half that, $10.50, which is doable. 12 sheets, so it's about $1 a sheet, but you pay the tax, which I could handle that barely. But I looked yesterday because I have a lot of 300-pound watercolor paper. I use Arches and Fabriano. Those are the two brands of 300-pound watercolor paper that I use. And I looked yesterday I did look to see 20 sheets of that's like almost $200 now. So folks who are not artists but who are buyers, think about this. The materials weren't free. My watercolor paints are probably $15 to $30 a tube. So it's not a cheap sport. It's an expensive sport. And if I'm not really into painting, I can't justify the expense. So anyway, so the first thing that you're going to do when you start a painting is you're going to tape your watercolor paper. I even tape my expensive 300-pound watercolor paper. Some people don't. But I'm going to tape, and be sure the paper is straight. It's perpendicular to the side. Yesterday, I allowed my paper to be crooked, and the whole day I was off. I couldn't tell whether I had my subject matter straight or not, and guess what? At the end of the day, in the painting session, I discovered that it was not straight, and I had to go back in and do some more marks to straighten it up. So save yourself a little bit of heartache and be sure your paper's on there straight. Do what I say do, not what I always do, in other words. So I'm going to tape this down. This is an art panel, a hardboard panel. In the country, we call it masonite, but I think they call it hardboard now, the more sophisticated people. You can also order these from Dick Blick. This one is the cheapest one they make. It's 11 by 14. Jack Richardson is the company that makes this one. I have them this size and larger for larger paper. I also paint on them. When I'm doing oil paintings, I put gesso on this and paint on them. So these are workhorses in my studio. I have a bunch of them. When I'm not painting, they get underfoot. So it's time to paint and get those things out from underfoot and into the light of day. So now I have this thing taped down. Almost. Okay, that's a bugaboo right there. I'm going to put I want it really taped down, not just some piece of tape thrown at it. I want it taped down because guess what? If it's not all the way secure, water will seep underneath there. And there you go, it's your paper. The next thing is my painting. I have a very large painting palette. Both the physical one and the number of colors I use. But for this exercise and for the one yesterday, it's a very limited palette. I'm using cadmium yellow lemon, cobalt blue, Prussian blue, burnt sienna, because I do not have my indigo yet. I'll get it sometime tomorrow. And so Prussian blue and indigo and burnt sienna make an indigo. And opus. Okay, opus is the red, yellow, and blue are the primary colors from which you can make any color, but it depends on which tones of those reds, yellows, and blues on which color you'll get out of it. Okay, so those are my colors. This I think I got at Dollar General. I don't know where I got it. It's a lunch tray. And it's not the best because it's absorbent and it allows, but it does keep, can't stand it when my paints start getting together, and I don't like those tiny little things because that doesn't allow me any freedom. I want freedom. I want big mixing spots, but I do want things that are separated. The good Jackie would have put this into a gallon-sized plastic bag last night and kept the paints moist. The bad Jackie just walks away and lets it sit there and dry up and wastes it. So anyway, be a good Jackie. All right, so now what I'm going to do, I got my. This you can buy at Hobby Lobby. You can buy at Big Blick. It's just a bowl. It's a water bowl for watercolor. Don't use it for, well, I don't use mine. I don't know whether it would hold up to oil, to turpentine or not. I don't use this for turpentine. But this is what I use for my watercolor and our other water-soluble mediums. I don't know what it's called. Water bowl. I don't know. My brushes, yesterday I went through them. I still have these out from yesterday. These are the brushes I used yesterday. I'll start out with the number 14 Princeton Velvet Touch Long Round. 3950 LR. Okay, so anyway, that's a good basic, don't get too tight. I came in yesterday and worked with this, and it's made by Creative Mark, this liner, micro mini liner, and this is a 20 over 0, which if you've taking care of your brush will be all flat, and when you get water on it, it'll come down to a point. That's hard to manage. It's hard to manage, and I'm going to have to, as I said yesterday, get my pixie bust working before I'm going to be able to handle that real well. This is an easier thing. I think I got this at Hobby Lobby. I've been in places that don't have art stores for too long. But anyway, this is a liner. It's also Master Touch. Every other week it's half off. A 7000 liner, Master's Touch. And it has a sort of point, sort of. I use angle, I don't know, Talon brushes with watercolor. I use big ones usually use very big ones, but this isn't a big painting. It's a small painting. But I use the angle because I can turn it to its side and get an edge. But here's one that defies all odds. It's a Master's Touch Chisel Blender. It's just a little, it's like if it were an oil painting brush, it would be a bright. It's a blunt end, and it's 7050 is the number, and this is the number, I can't find the number, what size it is. It's one of the small, there are smaller ones. Okay, so those are the brushes I'm using today, probably. I said this a while ago, I really don't know for sure what I'm going to use. I have an arsenal of brushes, so I may reach in there and pull out some other ones, and if I do, I'll tell you about it later. So anyway, we're going to start out. Yesterday I said that in watercolor I work from light to dark. I've done that, always done that. And in oil I do just the opposite. I work from dark to light. But the operative word is light. The important thing in my paintings is the light. Where is the light? The light is very important to me emotionally. On literary terms, it's very important to me. The light is essential in my watercolor paintings. So what I'm going to do, let me tell you this, and I'm going to say all this, try to say all this before I get started so that I don't have to talk so much maybe. You put on a layer and you let it dry. You saw me drying with the dryer yesterday, but what I really did is I let that air dry for, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes. And I went out and built bean teepees in my garden because I can't stand to wait. And if you don't let it dry between stages, you're going to be in trouble. So anyway, this is okay, what I'm going to do, today I'm going to be sure, I'm going to make a real quick gesture drawing of this subject with, and this, I would love it if this were bigger paper. It would give me more freedom, but I don't have the space to make work bigger right now. I'm gonna make more space today. That's my today. Instead of building bean teepees, I'm gonna figure out where I'm gonna build a bigger studio. Build it, they will come. So anyway, and it's mostly just water. There's a little hint of yellow in there, and in fact, I think I'm gonna bring it down more like this, because so this is the time. I just have just enough yellow in my brush that you can't see it, but I can faintly see what I'm doing. So that gives me an idea where I'm going. And then I will, with this, although the clay color is more of it's more of a terracotta. There's a terracotta rim, which I probably will have to come back in and use some cadmium orange. But I'm going to start out with this cadmium lemon, because cadmium lemon, I can pretty much use it anywhere. This is the color I mainly am a flower painter, believe it or not. I'm not a teapot painter, but and I use cadmium lemon first because of the leaves. Cadmium lemon is the color you use if you want to paint flowers and leaves, because it makes a good green. Cadmium yellow medium has orange or red in it. Red and green make brown, so it tends to make more of an olive green. The cadmium yellow medium, the cadmium yellow dark. So I use cadmium yellow lemon to begin most of my paintings, because unless I want that brownish color, which in the case of a terracotta, I do want that. All right, so now I've kind of suggested it. I'm hugging my edge too much, and I don't like that. So I am really confined by my space. I'm going to move this on over here, which, you know what? At this point, I can do that. I can do that, and that's why you start out with your gesture drawing. You find your area, and I'm in a tight space here. For me, I paint real big. I like to paint big. I don't always get that done, so I'm moving the whole operation over just so I'll have enough room. Okay, now this is going to be my outer edge right here. This is my handle. Here's my handle. Here's my spout. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to put some yellow where I see dark. Leave room for the light. I said this yesterday. In watercolor, the lightest color, or in paint, the lightest color is yellow. In watercolor, the lightest paint is yellow, but in watercolor paintings, the lightest color is white. And that, you have to leave that. So anyway, I'm going to stop right there. I've suggested and now I'm going to go look for some space to build a bigger studio, because that's the topic of the day. Build a better birdhouse. Before I do this, I'm going to take my paper towel, and I'm going to pull out some of this where I don't need to be. because that's too far, that's too close to the edge, and there's nothing worse than something hanging over there too far. So let me show you. Let me just make sure we know where we're going. That is it. This is the outline over here. This is the spout. That is the top of the 100. That was a restaurant where I lived before. Okay, while I'm at it, I'll just put a little bit of light here. Light's coming from over here, shadows behind it. So I'll put a little bit of yellow in my background, especially on the side where it's coming from. It's right there. And this time I've left a white space there. There's a little bit of reflected light right here, reflected from the white paper. So let there be a stop here. So I'm going to stop and get back to you in just a second.